Hey kiddos, what we're going to do today is we're going to continue to dig into our passage, Blood, Smoke, and Freedom. So today is day 2. So what you did yesterday is you identified the meaning of the unknown words in our passage. And what we're going to do today is we're actually going to learn a strategy called question, answer, relationship. And this strategy is going to help us answer those critical thinking questions that our goal we talked about yesterday was talking about. But before we get started, I want to do a little bit of a warm up, kind of refresh our minds about what we read yesterday. So, on a piece of paper, or if you're working with a parent or a sibling today, you can pause this video and I want you to answer these questions, okay? In the first section, how does the author create a mood or a feeling of fear and desperation? Based on a new world, what did people risk in the 1600s to get to America? Why? Reread Trouble Brewing. How did the arrival of Europeans in America affect Native Americans? What happened to Africans? Okay, so you can pause this video and take a second to just really think through these questions. Okay, kiddos, let's discuss these questions. So it says in the first section, how does the author create a mood or feeling of fear and desperation? Well, you'll see here, okay, it said cannon explosion shook the ground, smoke filled the air. Okay, ooh, that's pretty scary. It says Joseph Plum Martin was lying in the dirt trying to stay alive. I mean, that's pretty desperate, right? You can see down here it talks about how he really thought being a soldier was going to be a thrilling adventure. But down here it says hundreds of soldiers were dead. The cries and moans of wounded men rose up into the summer sky. It seemed Joseph had two choices, surrender or die. That's a pretty intense statement, right, kiddos? So that's kind of how she creates that mood of fear or desperation. Based on the New World, what did people risk in the 1600s to get to America and why? So when it says based on a new world, we're talking about this section here, and it asks you about what did they risk. Okay, well, it says that the journey could be deadly, that it could take long. They had to survive storms, riding food, biting rats, killer diseases. Okay, but all of those things were because they wanted a different kind of life. Okay, they were being persecuted. They didn't get the kind of freedom that they wanted religiously or even just for being able to make a better life with money. Okay, so they risked all of those things to have a better life. It says reread Trouble Brewing. Okay, so you should have done that. How did the arrival of Europeans in America affect Native Americans? What happened to Africans? Down here, you're going to see that, and we already knew about Native Americans and Africans as we've had this conversation, right? They were forced off their homeland. They were attacked. They were killed. They died of diseases. Africans were drugged here to act as slaves, and you'll see all of that there in your passage, okay? All right, now that we're nice and warmed up, let's talk about our strategy for this week, our focus. Okay, so this is still our goals. This is still what we're working on, being able to analyze an informational text, use my informational reading skills to answer critical thinking questions, and justify with text evidence. Okay, so these are all of the different skills that we have learned this year. We know about text evidence, text features, text structure, inferencing, main idea, and author's purpose. We hit on it on a cold read review one day. Okay, so these are all the ways that we know to dig into a passage. So what we're going to talk about today is how to use all of those within this strategy, which is the question, answer, relationship. Okay, this is what it's going to look like. There are 4 types of questions. Right there questions, which can be found right there in the text. The who, what, where, when, why, how questions, okay? Think and search questions. This is where we're going to hang out a lot. The answer is in the text, but you must think carefully about the whole story. This is where our text structure questions come from. The answer is there. I have all of these signal words there. It tells me the cause and the effect, the problem and the solution, how things are similar and different, what the author is putting in order. But I have to read the whole story to get the big picture. So I'm thinking and searching. It's not right there. It's there, but I have to really search for it. The other type of question is going to be author and me. These are inferences. This is main idea. Okay, this is when I have to read the whole passage, use clues in the text, and use my background knowledge. So it's the author, the clues in the text, me, my background knowledge, putting them together to make inferences, to decipher main ideas, supporting details, all of those things. Now, we won't spend a lot of time on my own, just not yet. We're not there yet. But these 3 spots right here is where we're hanging out today. So let me show you how to demonstrate this. This is what your questions are going to look like this week. So you're going to have a question. In your own words, explain why the author wrote, "Not everyone thrived in the colonies." Use details from the text. Okay, So I've got to stop and ask myself, what type of question is this? I ask myself this question because if I know what kind of question it is, then I know what reading skill to use. If it's a right there question, then I know to go back in my passage and find it word for word. If it's a think and search question, I know to go back and reread the story. I know to look for signal words, things like text structure, okay? And I know to think carefully about the whole story. If it's an author and me question, I know I'm going to have to make an inference, which means I need to go and highlight clues, think about my background knowledge. So, in my own words, explain why the author wrote, "Not everyone thrived in the colonies." Well, okay, so it's not going to be a right there question because she says not everyone thrived in the colonies, but she doesn't tell me what that means. So it's not right there. Think and search. Well, I don't really have to search the whole passage. I'm just looking at this one sentence, right? So this is definitely going to be an author in me. And that is because I'm going to use the author's words and then I'm going to have to make a guess. Why did the author write this? I've got to make an inference. Okay. So when I really think about it and I go back in my passage and look, this is how I'm going to restate it. I am going to be using wrap. I am using wrap on every question today. So here's my question. In your own words, explain why the author wrote, "Not everyone thrived in the colonies." I think the author wrote this to show how the colonists weren't the only people living there. She talks about the bad things that happened to Native Americans and African Americans. In the text, it said, as more settlers arrived, hundreds of thousands of Native American people were killed. She also said, and then there were African people who were dragged to America in chains. All right, kiddos, this is going to be what you work on for me the next couple of days. Your questions are going to look just like this. You're going to have this anchor chart to go back to and look at. You're going to read the question. You're going to decide what type of question it is. And then you're going to use wrap to answer. Now, you might have one or two multiple choice questions. You don't have to use wrap on those, but you do need to make sure you're using wrap if it's an open response question. Okay? All right, kiddos. So remember, look at this anchor chart, think critically about what you're reading, and then let me know if you have any questions.